You have irregularly high engagement rates or irregularly low bounce rates. This means it looks like maybe like if you have an engagement rate that's over 90% or a bounce rate that's under 10%, then it means you're probably having a difficulty understanding whether the source of traffic that brought people to your site is actually useful at getting them to consume content. It's too high of a conversion rate for you to see anything. There's no additional value there. You need a conversion rate for your definition of bounce or engagement that's somewhere between landing on site and taking the next key action. If it's too close one way or the other, if it's too high, in this case, too high of an engagement rate or too low of a bounce rate, then the metrics are useless to you. You can't tell whether the content is engaging or not because everybody is counting as engaged. So how does this happen? It can happen in a couple different ways. One, if you have page loads that load quickly. So if somebody lands on a page, hangs out for just a second, but then gets automatically redirected to a new page with JavaScript or with client-side redirects, then oftentimes you'll track 2 analytics page views, and it looks like the engagement rates are extraordinarily high or the bounce rates are really low. Sometimes you're just duplicating page view tracking. You've got 2 sets of code that are firing, you fire 2 page views, and now it looks like you have super low bounce rates or super high engagement rates. Another scenario is that you have an engagement in Google Analytics. You can customize the definition of an engagement rate, and you've adjusted that definition to be something that most or almost all, effectively all visitors qualify for, and so you've lost the value of that rate. Sometimes, and the way we look at this in the automatic audit is it's a landing page by landing page assessment, because if you have a site-wide problem here, then it's likely that you either have a generic template that has an issue in your web development code, or that you have a generic conversion issue or a generic definition issue in the GA settings. What's more interesting is when you have page by page specific issues. Sometimes you have the scenario where it's like, well, the users that come to this page always log in, and so it's almost all the time that they have a second page view. I would suggest in that scenario that you need to be able to segment those traffic types, because if these are returning, always going to be logging in users versus your marketing prospects, then those marketing prospects need to be separated. Their behavior's different, their intent's different, their engagement's different, and maybe you should even be creating separate engagement rates for those different types of folks so you can identify issues that returning users have, returning user engagement rate versus new user or marketing prospect engagement rate. Some of those things are things that you can't do in the GA4 interface. You can do it with the BigQuery data and using a report like Looker Studio. You have to write some SQL code, or you can talk to us. We have some tooling that makes it possible to use the BigQuery data without writing SQL. So user interface that marketer can use to define some of those conditions, those parameters, and then expose that data in Looker Studio and get off and running. So if you have questions in investigating any of these things or would like some help or would like to talk about some of that tooling, hit us up. We'd love to chat.